So we have with us today here at Food Tech Lou Copperhouse. Lou is a CEO of BlueNalu. BlueNalu is a company that, well, amazingly, is making fish out of cell culture from fish. So the first thing I would like to ask you, Lou, is why do we need? What is the context? What is the situation today? Why do we need? Why is it so important to make fish out of cell culture?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on this podcast. And when I started the company back in early 2018, my whole premise was, my goodness, there's a global supply chain issue. So there literally are no longer so many fish in the sea. In fact, 90% of the seafood that we consume is either overfished or fully exploited. So we have, first of all, a global supply chain issue. People love seafood. In fact, it's the fastest growing protein on the planet, faster even now than poultry. So our supply cannot keep up. Aquaculture is doing its best, but it can only do certain species well. So you have a global supply chain gap that the UN has predicted will be 50 million ton supply chain gap by 2050. As more consumers are selecting more seafood and there's just not more fish in the sea. Number two, you have an increasingly compromised supply chain with issues of microplastics in the ocean, unfortunately. It could be environmental contaminants from runoffs, pesticides, pollutants, radiation, heavy metals. Then there's more. Then there's the issues of warming oceans, acidification, that's really making a very vulnerable and volatile supply chain. So then you have another issue that you have the fact that if I'm running a restaurant, that there's some of these fish there, it may not be accessible, but we have a very stable supply, if you will, comparatively speaking, with chicken or beef. But seafood, it's the last hunted animal. So here we have something that's not just fragile in its availability and access and its consistency of quality, but it's also something that many restaurants won't trust because it's not sustainable, some species, and also if it was sustainable, it may not be consistent or accessible year-round. This is why it says market price on the menu in many restaurants for fish, because we sell what we catch. It's not predictable. So cell culture seafood, we can finally make a predictable supply chain, consistent every time, available year-round, free of mercury, plastics, and pollutants and contaminants, and just as delicious. So it's just a new way to make seafood that really offers a number of superior benefits.
Also diminish the destruction of biodiversity in the seas, I
Absolutely.
suppose. Yeah? There's been, the technology has been, from what I read, started approximately in the 1970s. The first fish cells started to be cultured mainly for research purposes. But there's been a quite interesting progression. I would like to know, how is your model? How is your technology? How are you transforming cells? Which cells are you particularly using? How do they grow? How you grow them? How do you turn them into a product that is going to taste, look, feel like a high quality fish product or seafood product?
Great question. Maybe we'll work backwards. Picture a microbrewery which has large fermentation vessels that today make yogurt or beer or wine. We're now making fish. This is not a living animal, just to be clear. This is just the part we eat. So there's no bones, no tails, no skin, etc. We're just making the fillet of the seafood that you consume. So it's literally 100% yield, but it's made in this microbrewery fermentation type vessel, stainless steel vessel, if you will. But in order to do that, we need to grow these cells. So what does that mean? We actually start with a real bluefin tuna at one point in time that we've captured or we secured in some way. We genetically proved that was bluefin tuna in the right species, Tunis orientalis, if you will, Latin. Mm-hmm. And we actually isolate from that tuna. It could be one of many types of cells. So if you picture now you're consuming tuna right now, sushi restaurant. So that's a delicious product. I love the fatty texture. What you're really describing is the relationship between muscle cells and fat cells and even connective tissue cells that might be naturally present. You don't think about that at a cellular level as a consumer, but that's what we actually are eating. So what we're doing is literally isolating those very cells that make up the intrinsic nature of that product. And then we're growing those cells in large volumes. We're enabling them to double many, many times. And what we're doing actually is we're feeding them nutrients. So now let's take another mental image. Fish that swim in the fjords of Norway in aquaculture. How are they being growing? They're being fed media. They're being fed feed that comes from companies like Nutreco that are supplying aquaculture feed and Cargill and many others that actually support that. What's in the feed? Amino acids, salt, sugars, other nutrients, excuse me, that really, lipids that really enable those living fish to grow. So we say we don't have living fish, we have living fish cells. We don't have a spine or a heart, or skin that needs to be, grown in any way. But what is the core element to get the cells to grow?
Yeah, you have to feed them too.
Yes. What's the relationship between living fish and living fish cells? So actually, one of our partners is Nutreco, which actually really was very excited by that. So much so they're one of our investors.
Okay.
So we're literally creating now a food grade supply chain that actually enables where those same kind of ingredients that are found in aquaculture are now being used at the fish cell level. So we're growing them the same way they might grow in nature with some of the same ingredients. And we're finding this way in which we get these cells to continue to grow and divide in very large volumes. What we're creating is what's called a cell bank. So our cell line. So we're trying to get these cells to duplicate many, many times. Then we freeze them down. And then we have a bit like a starter culture of bread. Then we actually take this frozen cell line, we thaw it out one day, and we say, let's make bluefin tuna this week. And 3-4 weeks later, out comes bluefin tuna out of the assembly line. So versus 7, 8, 10 years that might take a bluefin tuna to grow in nature, we're doing this in a matter of weeks.
Incredible.
It's preceded by all the R&D to get to that point, but we're literally able to truly bank these different fish species cell lines, and then actually produce on demand, which is a pretty amazing feat as well.
Everything looks really perfect, but I'm sure you come across a lot of difficulties. And I was thinking possibly from the regulatory point of perspective, but perhaps also growing fish cells might include some safety issues, maybe related to pathogens in the cell culture, virus, mycoplasmosis, which I remember having those difficulties when growing cells in research. Maybe would you like to mention what are your biggest challenges in order to get this product to the consumer?
That's a great question. When we started the company, the challenges were manifold. In fact, there was nobody ever propagated fish cell lines. You mentioned this goes back to the 60s, but at a commercial level, this industry just began just 7, 8 years ago. So it began really prior to that more on the mammalian side. So there was a fair amount of knowledge on mammalian cell line development, but really never any commercial application to create truly a stable cell line, certainly for a commercial fish species. This was primarily looked at aquarium fish back in the past. So there was no cell line development that pre-existed. Number 2, there's no food grade supply chain that existed. Now it does. Now cell line development also exists because we created it. Number 3, there was no commercial pathway. So one of the things you mentioned was scalability. So we recognized there's many ways we could, arguably manufacture the seafood through different technologies. We've chosen the more difficult route. We actually have our cells in suspension. We are not using what's called microcarriers or scaffolds. We have an animal component-free medium.
Okay.
So others might be using some animal-based ingredients in the product. Let me first explain that our product is real animals, it's fish, but there's no other ingredients that might be animal-derived within the formulation. So it's a scalable process, it's a profitable process, it meets all the regulatory requirements. So in terms of safety, realize we're making this in a sterile fashion. So I mentioned beer, wine, and some other processes that we use in the food industry. This is actually unlike conventional seafood, which would have a significant amount of microorganisms. It would actually have an issue with oxidation that would be quite significant for a high fatty product, for example. We're able to retard that degradation of the product because of the sterility of our process and our intrinsic ability for the product to actually have an extended shelf life and really maintain that quality going forward. Our first product, in fact, is bluefin tuna, but specifically the toro portion, the belly fat portion. So we really have designed the most exotic, if you will, and the most highly prized fish, on the world. Not just highly priced fish, but the highly priced portion of the highly priced fish, the toro portion.
Okay. When I heard about your company, the first thing I thought, I wonder, or I wish, if during Food for Future Fair, I would be able to try something like this. When do you think this will be available for testing? When could it be available to the general public?
No, in order for it to be available commercially, we need to have regulatory approval. So what's exciting is there already have been a few companies on the poultry side or the pork side that have actually gotten regulatory approval in America or in Singapore or in Australia, New Zealand. So there are some precedents that have already been established. So the two nations, now three, if you consider Australia, New Zealand a combined one, but US, Singapore, and Australia, New Zealand now have products that have meet regulatory approval, but there hasn't been one yet for seafood. But to answer your question, we are very focused on getting regulatory approval in US and Singapore first, because they already have a regulatory pathway in place. We anticipate that'll happen in the next 12 months. Maybe hopefully quite a bit sooner than that time frame. So hopefully this year, and we're cautiously optimistic that will happen. But we're also very focused on Japan and Korea and UK. So we were recently admitted into the UK Food Standards Agency, FSA, regulatory sandbox, as they call it. We're the only American company and the only seafood company that was admitted of the 8 companies worldwide. Many of them are European. But we're very excited to be, the only American and only seafood company that are part of this process. And we're really working together with the other companies in the sandbox, if you will, to kind of help facilitate the establishment of regulatory process here in the UK too. So we hope that the UK will have a regulatory process in the next couple of years as well. But we're also working in the Middle East. So one of our biggest funders is from Saudi Arabia. So food security is a big global issue as well. So we're certainly very much a global company, albeit based in San Diego.
You mentioned yesterday in your presentation the first lab-grown beef burger that was presented in Maastricht by Maastricht University in 2013 by the group of Mark Post. Actually, that's the university where I was studying, so I know the case pretty well. I wonder, is there going to be some sort of presentation like this? Have you tried the product? Have you guys, the team of experts and professionals have been able to try the product?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I encourage your listeners to look at our website, BlueNalu.com. But yes, I've tried the product maybe 100 times, but we've actually done 8 different finfish species so far. So we've really mastered finfish as our first category. We've done yellowtail amberjack. We've done mahi-mahi as a prototype that we did publicly. We did some publicity around that, I should say. But bluefin tuna, and specifically the toro portion, is our first commercial product. And yes, we've had many tastings amongst investors and local chefs as well. And our whole goal is to make, one thing that's worth mentioning is today bluefin tuna is highly variable. As I mentioned, one of the challenges of the supply chain and the fact that there isn't trust is you could have a very fatty product or a metallic product. It could be pink, it could be brown, it could be heavily marbled or not. So we're actually working with chefs to make the perfect product. What is the right color, texture, mouthfeel of Blue Fortuna Toro? So we're literally able to work at the cellular level up to really make a consistent product that is really most desirable by both chefs and consumers. We try the product, but more importantly, many chefs have tried the product and thinks, we've nailed it. So we're just really excited by bringing our product to market as soon as possible.
Positive feedback from
very positive.
Excellent. Also, it's a product not only consistent, but also is improvable. I mean, it's done in vitro, so you can reach higher levels of
That's
of
absolutely correct. So it's a good point. So we could literally, if we chose to, customize the formulation in different markets. So one market wants a fattier product or a leaner product that we could do. We can make a product with some nutrient density in a certain product application. But right now we're just working on a vanilla version, if you will. One size fits all, but we recognize that customization is certainly an opportunity in the future.
Last question. Regarding consumer perception, obviously this is a high-tech product, very innovative, something completely new. I would like to mention, for example, my mother. She will never buy any fish from fish farms. My grandfather was a fisherman, so tradition in the family stays strong, and no matter what I say regarding possibly toxicity in some species, maybe like tuna, or she would say no. I would always cook only fresh fish, and I'm not willing to change. What have you done any research? What do you think about what's going to be the response from the consumer to such a high-tech product?
We've done a lot of research, actually. In fact, in the last 12 months, we've done 10,000 consumer intercepts in 8 nations: US, UK, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Japan, Korea, Thailand, Egypt, and Singapore. Across the board, a great level of interest in our products. The question is, so yes, we did this amongst frequent sushi consumers. These people that love sushi. So many people don't like sushi at all. Some people don't like bluefin toro because it's too fatty. So nonetheless, we actually targeted all these 10,000 were frequent sushi consumers. And we asked them, so we learned a lot about psychographics. So kind of your point about one generation versus another generation. We learned that sushi consumers that frequent sushi most often are those that are very experiential, they're very innovative, they're foodies. And they're actually, they might enjoy omakase, where the chef prepares, because they always want some experiential situation. We have a high correlation with people that love sushi, with people that want our product. So why do they want it? We asked them, when we presented the data and some of the benefits of our process, what really resonated was human health. Said differently, the fact that our product was free of mercury and plastics and pollutants was a reason that they actually were willing to pay, in many cases, a premium for it. So not only did they select it, in fact, 9 out of 10 consumers were excited to try it amongst frequent sushi consumers. And the reason, again, was the human health issues. And then when we talk to chefs, they're very excited by the fact that for the first time they have consistency and a predictable supply chain and 100% yield. They don't need the back of the house labor. So we really are winning on both sides of the coin there.
Good. Yesterday, after your presentation, there was a fantastic presentation from Marleen Onwezen from Wageningen University in the Netherlands. And she mentioned 3 key factors in consumer perception, and she was talking about the intention behavior gap. That's the difference between your intention in what you want to consume and what you really consume. Yeah. So she mentioned intention to eat more healthy foods, intention to eat sustainable products, and the intention, the main one, was the intention to eat products that are beneficial emotionally. Yeah. Is your product fulfilling those intentions from the general public?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, what I've learned in my career, I've been in the food industry for 40 years now, was you need to sell a consumer 2 times. The first time, people are willing to give you a chance. You're selling them on the packaging or the story or the branding, some sort of connectivity, and it's increasingly very experiential. People are no longer buying foods that are filling their stomachs. They're buying foods that have some connection to them. That connection could be quite varied. Could be cultural, could be branding, could be your desire to support this industry or this company. But the second time is based on taste. You know, how does product really perform? Does the taste, or the price, or the convenience, and the emotional benefits really come through? So we found that sushi happens to be a very social category in the food sector. They're revolving, rotating sushi
Conveyor
restaurants,
belts.
conveyor belts.
Yeah.
And just really, it's fun. So it's actually a place where people really go to enjoy food. So we are in the right place with our product. So to that point, you know, if we were doing a different category or different species, so we're very thoughtful about that. You're right, the emotional connectivity is important there. The fact that we're offering something that's very experiential and innovative. And like in every industry, whether it's a cell phone or the first computer or certain kind of cars or fashion, there's early adopters. So who are the early adopters? And all of our research that we've conducted is really focusing on that segmentation. Who are the early adopters? Why? What is their psychographics? What is the meal occasion? Just a lunch or dinner? Do you have it independently or with family or on business? So we've really learned to slice and dice who that early adopter customer is. And maybe we'll get your mom the second or third time around.
I hope so.
But certainly she'll be following other people that just are a bit more experiential in their selections and always like to try new and innovative things.
Okay.
And
Look,
again, healthier products.
To finish with this fantastic dialogue, we've just been talking about socializing and enjoying pleasure. That is food. Yeah. Food is about also socializing, cooking, buying, sharing it, and enjoying it together. And this is something that it happens here a lot. I don't know, what's your experience so far? You've been in Bilbao for a couple of days. Have you been able to try some of our local fantastic fish recipes? How has it been so far?
I haven't had the fish just yet, but I will this weekend.
Okay.
But I have definitely enjoyed the cheesecake, the Bass cheesecake. That was
cheesecake.
That was on my list.
Has become incredibly popular.
Oh my God,
recently.
people go to restaurants just for the cheesecake.
Yeah.
And then they get entree to support it.
Okay.
So I never saw that before, where people are dessert centric.
Yeah.
I'll get some entree too.
Okay.
And
Well.
but no, it's a wonderful food scene here.
Yeah.
And very excited to be here and look forward to coming back many times.
You're welcome anytime. And if you want some recommendations, we can talk later
Let's do
about
it.
restaurants and about what to order, because there is some amazing recipes, fish recipes here in the Basque Country. Lou, thank you so much for being with us in biology, Biología, and our podcast of science and culture. I think you guys are doing an amazing work. And I wish you a lot of success. I hope to see you again in Bilbao soon. And I hope you enjoy your stay here very much.
Well, thanks very much for having me on your podcast.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.